Hello friends, this is Chris Orwig and welcome to another tutorial. I am a Sony artisan, a photographer, author, teacher, and in this tutorial we are in Photoshop. And here I want to talk a little bit about working with layers, selecting layers, and also working with typography. We'll be using this photograph that I captured of my buddy Matt Kloskowski. Matt's a great landscape photographer and an educator as well. And I want to use this as a way to talk about some of these issues that I mentioned. In particular, I want to create something for him where it says Matt K Photography Workshops, and maybe there's a frame around the edge, and then we have a graphic. And these elements will help us to talk through typography and also layers. So let's begin with the first idea. And that is to put sort of a border around the edge that's inset from the edge. How do we do that? Well, here we can grab a tool like the rectangular marquee tool and just click and drag out a selection. Next, once we've done that, we'll create a new layer, and I'm going to go ahead and name this frame. Next step, I'll go to edit and choose fill, or if you know the shortcuts, you could do that as well. And we're going to fill this just with a solid color. It doesn't really matter what, and then click OK. From there, we will deselect. Now, once we have this, what we can do is double click the layer to open up our layer style effects and add a brush stroke here. And I'll add a brush stroke, maybe that gray is kind of cool, or a blue or something, and click OK. Now, obviously right now, this black box is covering everything. How do we get rid of the content on the layer except for the brush stroke? Well, we do that by using our fill amount. Now, you probably already know you can drop this down, and that will then hide that fill content of the layer, whatever it is, and only show us these effects. Yeah, how do we do that by way of a shortcut? So let's say we have 100% fill. How do I change that? Well, if you hold down the Shift key and press a number on the keyboard, like 2, it goes to 20%, or 6, it goes to 60. Shift 0 goes to 100. Shift 00, it goes to 0%. So it's similar to the shortcut for opacity. Opacity, you just press a number on the keyboard. For fill, you add shift to that equation. So shift plus a number allows you to quickly change the opacity of the fill amount on a layer. All right, well, there is object number 1. Next, let's look at object number 2. I already brought it over. It's a graphic, this anchor. If I click into this layer, I can select that then with the move tool, and I can move this around. Next, let's say we want to knock out the white in this and perhaps have the anchor as white and the background is black. So let's do that first. Command-I on a Mac or Control-I on Windows inverts any kind of a layer, whatever it is, a mask, or if we were to go to a pixel-based layer, you can see it gives us the negative or inverse of that. So here we're just inverting this, and then we're going to go to our blending modes. When it comes to blending modes, the ones that we want to try are screen and multiply. So we'll try multiply. It does the opposite of what we want. We'll try screen, and it helps us so that we just have this white anchor, which we could use as a graphic if we wanted to. So all of this revolves around pressing Command-I and then choosing either multiply or screen, depending upon the tonality that we want for the anchor, white or black. All right, so we have our anchor there. Next, let's add some typography. So I'll tap the T on the keyboard, and I'm going to go ahead and type out Matt K. Next, when we see that type, we can see that it is too big, right? It extends all the way past the edge of the frame. To correct that, I'll go to the character panel, window character, and I'm going to remove the spacing between the letters. So we can remove that or change that with a slider. Yet let's say that we don't want to go to the character panel. How can we change that another way? Well, another way is to select this text field. You can do that by double-clicking on the icon here, which is the T icon for a typography layer. Then press Option on a Mac, Alt on Windows, and use your arrow keys. Left arrow key, the letters are closer together. Right arrow key makes them bigger. Next, we can go ahead and press Command Return in order to, or Command Enter in order to exit out of that. Now, with this, I really want to have a brushstroke around my letters and the fill of the letters gone. Well, how can we do that? Do you remember? We double-click the layer. We add the brushstroke. Let's take a look, see how that looks here. Let's go outside with that. And then we make it a color so we can actually see what's happening here. and click OK. And then we need to decrease the fill value. I want you to do that by way of a shortcut. What is it? Shift plus a number. 6 goes to 60%. 2 goes to 20. 0, 0, it goes to 100%. So now we can see through this completely to whatever is behind it. Now, another quick way to change typography is to use transform. Command T on a Mac, Control T on Windows, gives you quick access to free transform, and then we can press enter or return to apply that. All right, just a few more steps here. I'll tap the T key and go ahead and type out photography workshops. And then press Command return or Control enter in order to render that out. Now, obviously, this text here is huge. So I'll go back to the character panel or just click on the icon right here. And I'm going to select that layer and just decrease that size. So you don't need to double click it to change its size. And I'm just going to take this way down so I have a much smaller size. That will be easier to work with. So now that I have that with my move tool, I can go ahead and position this here. All right, well, so far we have a document with multiple layers. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers. We have this frame on top and we have our various layers underneath. Now, one of the things that we may want to do is after we create this or get the elements there is design it a little bit better, right? And so let's say I want to go to photography workshops and I want to go there really quickly. Well, there's a shortcut that we can use, and let me turn off the top layer for a moment to show you this. And it's to hold down the Command key on a Mac, Control key on Windows, and then to click. And can you see as I click around on these various elements, it's jumping in my layers to that layer. I can then transform it or do whatever I need to do. Command click on this one, and then I can go ahead and select this one and make that bigger or smaller or whatever it is. So in this way, we're able to quickly jump between different layers by holding on the Command key on a Mac, Control key on Windows, and clicking. Now, the one problem comes into play when we have a layer like this above. If I Command click in this area, anywhere inside of this, remember there's actually content here. We just can't see it. So Photoshop thinks I'm trying to select this. So it's like I can't get through using that shortcut to select these underlying layers. How else can I do this? Well, one way that we can get there is if you right click or control click. It will show you whatever layers are accessible to you underneath where you clicked. So here I could go to photography workshops and move that. Right click or control click. I can get to Matt K and then change that or put it in a new position. And this way I can quickly still jump around my layers. And sometimes this is helpful, not necessarily when you're trying to create a layout like this, but when you have a composite or you have something with lots of layers and you just can't get to the layers quick enough. Here, when they're 5, it's not that difficult to click over here. But I work on some files that will have 40 layers. And rather than scrolling up and down to try to find them, I'll use this technique of just right-clicking, selecting the object. Let's see, I want to go to the anchor and then modifying it in some way here. All right, well, obviously the design of this little layout isn't complete, but it gives you the idea of how we can start to work with layers in some helpful ways, and also some of the techniques for how we can select typography or make changes to it as well. I hope you picked up a few helpful tips in this one, and hey, thanks for joining me, and I hope to see you in another. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye for now.